Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any comments or statements from the public? Seeing none. Moving on to special matters. Welcome to new members. Welcome, Melissa Pacheco, the newest member of the Westport School Committee. We'd like to welcome you here. Looking forward to working with you for the next 3 years. You were an audience participator for a very long time, and you've now shifted your seat here. Congratulations, and I think you will do a fabulous job, and we look forward to getting your input while you're here.
Thank you. And you have to buy the pizza.
Any comments?
No. Thank you, Michelle, for your comments. I'm very excited to be here and looking forward to working with all of you as well.
Thank you. On to appointments and, whoops, sorry, just clicked away. Oh, it's sideways. It's in here. I know, but it's sideways, so. As part of the first meeting after a election, the school committee goes through the reorganization process. Starting with the chair, and I would like to say that I have enjoyed being the chair for the last 2 years. It has been eye-opening. It has been exciting. It has been very busy. And I would actually welcome continuing on as chair if the committee so chooses. I have implemented the online packets, implemented the new school committee business to our agenda, which sort of helps along the opportunity to input to school committee and let Dr. Colley and the chair know whatever business you may want to move forward with. My goals, if you so choose, would be for the next year to continue to improve communication among the board. I do think that that is something that we can definitely improve upon. Also, I'd really like to work to improve PR. I think we've had some community members that have stepped up to volunteer some time to do that, and I think coming from us, that might be an important thing to do as well. And one thing the school committee has not really done ever since I have been here, and it is something that policy says we should be doing, and I think we need to start doing this, especially now with the new educator evaluation, is implement our own goal setting and implement our own self-evaluations and help us move forward and figure out what we want to do for the next year. And in turn, that would help to help the district improvement plans and set their goals, and also the school improvement plans set their goals. So I would be happy to stay for another year if that so chooses, but are there any motions?
Make a motion.
Michael.
Make a motion to appoint Tony Viveras as chair of the Westport School Committee.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion.
I think that Tony's showed balanced views over the past few years, and certainly I think change is always good, as indicated by the polls last night, and I think it is time for a change.
Any other discussion?
Thanks, Mike.
I would also, is that your only discussion?
I would be glad to do it if the committee so chooses. Thank you.
While I agree change is good, the polls also re-voted an already elected member. So change, yes, but also stability and experience, I think, are also helpful. while I trying to do this nicely. While I think Tony is a very positive addition. You add some wonderful ideas at our meetings. I feel that some of the things like reminders of meetings or whatnot are something that a chair should be doing. They shouldn't have to be reminded that there's meetings, and I think that it's not a negative to anybody in particular, but I do think that that is an important piece to that. But whatever. Any other input? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No?
No. I was going to say aye as well.
Aye. 3 ayes. 1 no.
Aye.
Okay, your meeting.
Thank you, Michelle.
You get the hammer too. Use it well, Tony.
I want to thank the members for allowing me the opportunity, and I want to thank Michelle. And it's no secret that it is a tough job, and it is a lot of work, and I think everybody here appreciates the work that she's done. And but again, I too just think it's time for change. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
Let's move on. Thank you.
All right, so, and Melissa, I want to thank you, and I also want to thank Nancy for running. As everyone knows, not too many people want to step up and get involved, and it's a big deal. Melissa made it in, but it's. I want to thank Nancy also. Okay, so let's move on to Vice Chair.
I move Michelle Dorr for Vice Chair.
Is there a second? I'll second. Discussion?
I think that Michelle was a very valuable chair, and that as Vice Chair she could continue fulfilling some of the responsibilities that she had while she was chair, and would be a good support to you, Tony, as our new chair.
I agree. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed. I guess I should have said I wanted some. I had a question.
Go ahead, Melissa.
As Vice Chair, what is
To fill in, basically fill in when the chair's not available.
That is the limitation.
That
of
is,
the
yeah,
Vice Chair
that's the-
to take over as the role
ahead,
of the
Mike.
chair is,
Go ahead. You want to explain?
as the role of the chair is to facilitate the meeting, the Vice Chair is to step into that role in the absence of the chair. It's all in that binder, but
Sure, okay.
they just got it. So there's no.
So we have two yeas
Yay.
and 3 yeas. Secretary. Karen Augusto, who's not here, but I would imagine she would want to continue in that position. May I have a motion?
I move Karen Augusto as Secretary.
Second? I'll second. Discussion?
Is the role of secretary the same as recording clerk?
What do you mean, Michael?
Well, there's more responsibilities to a secretary than a recording clerk. I know that Ms. Augusto is the secretary to the superintendent. Is she the secretary to the school committee, or is she the recording clerk?
She's the secretary to the school committee. As I understand it, Dr. Collins?
She is the secretary to the school committee and the superintendent.
So
At this point.
in defining it that way, there is somewhat of a conflict in being able to perform both roles. I think the title, she is the secretary, and she does a great job in everything she does, don't get me wrong, but there's
She's
been...
Dr. Collins, executive secretary.
Exactly. And the reason I ask for clarity is when I'm receiving emails, sometimes I wonder if it's... I often receive emails on behalf of Dr. Colley from his secretary or from his executive secretary, or is it from the school committee business manager? There is a separation. And I don't know that the term secretary is a committee position.
Well, it's something we could look at in the future. But
Mr. Sullivan, you've been on this board for multiple years now, and I mean, it's never been an issue before.
Yes, it has. It's been asked before, and it hasn't been answered. Is a conflict.
I don't believe that there's a conflict.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain till I get clarity.
Legal counsel.
I move Murphy, Hesse, Toomey, and Lehane.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I think they've done a good job. We have a good relationship with the firm. They've been responsive whenever we've needed them to, and I think we can continue to have that continuity with them.
Dr. Colley, by appointing them tonight, is that in any way a binding contract with them, with the law firm?
They serve at the pleasure of the board.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I do have some concern with the continuation of the legal counsel as we currently have set up. I think appointing them tonight so we have legal counsel in place, but as I asked a year ago, it's a good opportunity to search for other options. There's, yes, legal counsel has been in place for the 4+ years that I've been a member, and for many years before that. We have a growing legal budget, and I'm concerned with some advisories that have...
Okay, all right, we'll take that up. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay, the WFT reps for bargaining.
I'll continue on that.
Okay, Carolina. Michael, you were on that last year.
I think last year I changed off that one on...
No, you were
dispatch.
out, it's the alternative. Eric
You-
was
yeah,
on.
you were the alternative. It was Eric and Carolina.
I'd like to be on that if possible.
So Carolina and Melissa, a motion?
And we need an alternative because it ended up actually that between
Michael?
my schedule, Eric's, and she can't,
Thank you.
I'm
No.
sorry, you need
We need an alternative.
as an alternate.
a third?
No,
That's what we
two
did
and an
last year.
alternate.
It was Eric, me, and you. And between the three of us, at least one of us always made a meeting, but it was hard to juggle, so.
Is that a
We
yes?
won't
Mike?
have an
No,
alternate?
I'm on AFSCME. I'm in the middle of negotiations now, and that's,
All right, we'll
Okay, we won't have an
add that
alternate,
later.
that's fine.
So,
I'll,
Carolina
I'll
and
move it,
Melissa,
yeah.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Second? Is there a
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So Carolina. And the WFT rep for the sick bank, it was Eric last year.
I'll do that, 'cause I don't think they meet
Okay.
that often.
A motion.
So moved.
Second. In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
AFSCME reps for bargaining. Last year was Michael and Carolina.
Yeah, I can continue. I think we need
I'm
some
available.
continuity on the bargaining.
Anybody else want to? I'll motion that Michael and Carolina continue to be the AFSCME reps. Second?
Second.
Okay.
We have to vote.
Policy
No,
Subcommittee.
we have to vote.
I'm sorry, let's vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Opposed? All right, moving on to the Policy Subcommittee.
Tony, I'd like to stay on policy as well.
I also would like to stay on.
I was interested in it, but I know Michelle is too, so I don't know.
Michelle, do you want to stay on?
I'd like to stay on that one.
I'd like to stay on that one.
You're not
Or
on that
be
one.
put
Not
on
on
that
that.
one. How many
There's
are
three.
on?
Three.
There's three. It's
Three.
This year was Carolina, myself, and Michelle.
I'd like to move Michelle, Tony, and myself for the policy subcommittee.
Second? I'll second. Can I second? I can second.
Yes.
Any discussion?
Yeah, the core of Massachusetts general law that addresses the policy subcommittee addresses a schedule throughout the year that each section of the policy book will be reviewed. That was one of the first things this year that was done. That schedule was eliminated. We never know what policies are being scheduled. It's the law that says you have to notify the public when the different sections of the policy book will be reviewed. That calendar used to be part of the policy book, and you remove that. So let's see if we can bring that back as your first act this year. Thank you.
Noted. All in favor?
Aye.
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 The Health Advisory Committee, Michelle, that was you.
Nominate Michelle as the Health Advisory Committee.
Second? If she-
Second.
Discussion?
Well, I nominate Michelle only
Yeah,
because I believe she
second,
was
we
in
got a
that
second.
last year, and if she is willing, I think she did a great job.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Board Liaison. First is Board of Selectmen. It was Michelle last year and myself as an alternative, the alternate. Michelle, do you want to continue?
I don't care. If somebody else wants it, it doesn't matter.
I nominate Michelle as the board liaison to the Board of Selectmen.
And I nominate Melissa as the alternative. The alternate, sorry.
You just don't like going to that one.
I'll second it.
Michelle, Melissa, are you interested?
Well, I was thinking of,
You can
the
do more than one.
finance, the finance committee. Well,
No, you probably don't want to do both of those at the same time.
right. But if you would, if you
Three meetings.
prefer the Board of Selectmen, I'll do that,
I
whatever
did.
you prefer.
You can do both.
Oh, I can't.
They had me doing both.
And so,
Oh, yeah, I see that.
Mike, do you want to be the alternate for the selectmen?
My paper only says one anyways. I don't know.
Yeah,
We
there's
had an
one, but
alternate
there's an
last year.
alternate. Just as an alternate.
Because Mondays were not good for me.
Right. And they're
So-
still not good for you, so.
No, they're
Melissa.
not.
So I moved Michelle and then Melissa as the alternate.
I second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So Michelle with Melissa as the alternate.
So,
Yes,
no,
sorry.
no, it's okay. I'd like to go on Finance Committee.
And that's 2 members, so who else would like to do that?
Oh, I heard Melissa say she'd like to.
I'm sorry.
No, well, if I'm
No, I
doing
know
the
if you're
Board of
going to change your
Selectmen-
mind.
Is
You're
it-
the
you're
alternate
the
for the Board of
alternate.
Selectmen.
So you don't have to be,
So the commitment there is only 100 hours a week.
So is the Finance Committee also?
I moved
also-
Melissa Pacheco. So you are interested? That's on Tuesdays.
Yeah, but you just said,
Yeah, no, not if, because you said that Mondays aren't that great for you, so I'll probably be
Oh, okay.
covering, so I would say,
I'll do it.
It's not, you don't need to go to every single meeting, you know, it's not like,
I move Carolina as finance and Michelle as alternate, if I understood.
No, there's 2
no, there's
actually on
2,
that
so
one, but that's fine.
Michelle and, Michelle and Carolina.
Okay.
Second on that?
Second.
All in
That was
favor?
was that my?
That was your move.
Well,
Yes.
you made it as a no, but I just fixed it. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so Michelle and Carolina for finance. Capital Improvement Committee, which I currently am on. I don't have any problem staying if somebody else wants to do it.
I nominate Tony as the Capital Improvement Planning Committee.
Second.
Discussion? Yeah, I mean, I don't have any problems doing it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Cable Committee.
I'd like to stay on just because I actually have a background in communications, so. And I think we're moving forward with a project that got started this year, so I'd like to stay on that.
I would move that Carolina stay
Second.
on the Cable Committee. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
School Improvement Fund. Michael, you were on that last year?
Yeah, I'll continue with that. I've had a meeting with the town administrator to see if we can't clarify the uses that, and the balance.
So I move that Michael stay on there.
Second.
All in favor? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So Michael's on the School Improvement Fund and the School Building Committee.
That-
Carolina was,
We don't have that anymore. That was for the Greens project, which is now over, right?
They're done.
okay. All right, so we just,
If we get another building
if we
project.
need to form
Have
that,
to
we'll
form
do that
another.
in the future. So last but not least, the Budget Subcommittee. It was myself and Michael.
Tony?
I'd like to
Can I-
continue.
Carolina?
I move we dissolve the budget subcommittee. I think that there's only 5 members, that one of the major responsibilities of the school committee is budget, as well as policy, but is budget. And to have a subcommittee of 2 people, and then come back to the board, I think it creates confusion. I just don't believe it's productive. I think that we should not have a budget subcommittee.
Michael?
Yeah, it's worth noting that in the past 4 years, the Budget Subcommittee was re-implemented this past year. It was left blank and not filled previously due to some prior views. This year is a budget process that has resulted from meetings of the Budget Subcommittee, and I believe there's been less confusion this year in budgeting for our annual operating budget than any other year previously.
My comments on it is, I think what the subcommittee does is it affords us another opportunity to hash some of these things out, to you know, just to meet and just to go. It's very difficult to do these things at a regular school committee meeting.
I actually disagree, if I may. We don't hash anything out because it's just 2 people.
That's my point.
Well, we could put 3
we're
people
too
on. We could-
small a committee. If there were, 13 of us, then I think it would make more sense where you would have a subcommittee that would, with enough members that you could have a discussion. But when there's only 5 of us and the committee's made up of 2 people, it's sort of, it just, to me, it doesn't
Melissa?
make any sense.
How is that different from the policy subcommittee?
In which way? What do you mean?
And if it's not necessary for a budget subcommittee, then why would it be necessary for a policy subcommittee? Do you know what I'm saying? I think that they both have a similar function. They go back and they hash out the budget, or they go back and they hash out the policies and then come back to the committee and then go over it.
Oh, it's a good point. We do have 3 members on the policy subcommittee.
Totally. My only difference with the policy subcommittee is the policy stuff is a lot of review of language. It's going through language issues and trying to parse out, to make sure there's legislative changes that get imposed upon us. So it's different in the sense that you have to review the policies before you get there. I mean, you have to review the budget too, but it's not the same kind of mechanism that the budget is. I think the budget needs to be aired here. I think everybody should be able to watch and listen to the discussions we're having on budget, to the decisions we're making and why we're making them. The subcommittee meetings usually happen during the day.
Kelly, I think for the same reason you just stated, that the reason we have a policy subcommittee is because if we tried to do that at a regular meeting, I mean, we know how long the policy subcommittees go. That's my take on it. I think we keep it. I mean, if some new members want to, or different members want to go on, I don't have any, so we could,
One of the things that I was thinking of, Carolina, was that similar to the policy where you're looking at it, things that I would imagine that would be at the budget subcommittee would also be how we organize the budget and what it looks like and how it applies to different goals and objectives. Similar to what you're talking about, going more in depth than just looking at the actual line items.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just in favor for those.
Sure.
reasons.
Can I suggest that Melissa be on that committee then? Because that's not what's been happening. And what's been happening is the budget is being reviewed, and then not everything necessarily gets filtered up here, and we don't all have the right information. That's different.
And the subcommittee doesn't like
There was one budget committee this year before the budget started. There was no review of the budget. That was because we were not able to schedule a budget meeting. So that is incorrect. There was no review of the budget by the budget subcommittee. What this does, it appoints the responsibility back to the school committee to affect the budget. There's only other options on that is individuals can go and affect the budget, but otherwise we are presented with a budget by the superintendent who hasn't had any subcommittee meetings. It's essential. It's the essential first step in monitoring.
So, do we have any volunteers?
I'd like to be on the
I
budget
volunteer.
subcommittee.
Melissa wants to be on. Michael?
Yep.
Anyone else? Do we want to make it 3? I move that Melissa and Michael are on the budget subcommittee.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
No.
All right, so that's our appointments. Mickey, you got all that? Let's move on to the meeting day and time. Next year, Dr. Collins?
You can keep it the same, or you can change it. You obviously have a new member to worry about. We just like to make sure that people get a chance to discuss that on a yearly basis. Although you can change it at any time, you just got to give enough notice to the public to know that you're changing the times or the dates.
Kelly?
I would request, and I know maybe this is an inconvenience, and if we can't do it, that we move the meetings to be a little bit later than 5 o'clock. I mean, I personally work in Boston, so I end up having to take the day off, working from here because it's hard, and if I have court, then I'm leaving and commuting, and it's 5 o'clock is really a crunch.
Yeah.
Melissa?
I think too, for other people, if they want to watch the meeting or be at the meeting, leaving at 5 o'clock is very difficult. I've also heard that from people, and it's difficult for me,
Michael?
too, so.
Yeah, I know that at one time there was a move to make them even earlier, so I think 5 was an accommodation between the 4 and the 6. I have no preference.
So Caroline, what's your 5:30?
I'm also cognizant of the fact that sometimes the meetings are lengthy and I don't want to be here till midnight. So, I mean, 5:30 is probably enough of a window for me that I can build that in. It just gives me that extra half hour that I'm not like, going, oh my God, I'm not going to make the 5 o'clock meeting. I've walked in late to meetings as a result. You've seen that.
I would almost suggest 6 o'clock, only because for other people because I think it's important for people who want to come, who might not have the opportunity to, because they're getting out of work at 5, and then come in. I mean, I'm okay with the 5:32, but I think 6 o'clock would be better for other people too. But
I would be fine with 6 as well. I mean,
Anybody
it
have
would make
anything
my
else
life
to-
easier, actually.
To add to
but-
that? My take on it is, I'm leaving the house at 5, we get back at 10, 11 sometimes, so leaving the house at, being here for 6 just gives us that much more time at home, so. I don't have any problems, with 6.
I don't know if this is a different, but I don't know if it's possible to change the day. I know we've been meeting on Wednesdays. I don't know if it's possible to change it to a Tuesday or a Thursday.
My only issue with that is
The other meeting.
Tuesdays would compete with FinCom
It's the other
potentially.
meeting.
I think Wednesdays is a neutral day because the Board of Selectmen usually don't meet, so they usually meet on Mondays, sometimes they bump. FinCom's usually on Tuesdays, and I think Wednesdays ended up being sort of in the middle of the week. We don't deal with holidays having to bump our meetings and stuff.
And they enjoy coming to our meetings, so we don't wanna.
Are Thursdays someone else's, or is that just a bad day for people, or?
Dr. Collins?
The only concern with Thursday is usually request the packets. They need to be to you 48 hours in advance. But I know people have jobs and families and whatnot, so we usually try to prepare the packet by Friday, so you get it over the weekend, so you can look at it at home during the weekend. If you move it to Thursday, there would be so many things that are kind of last minute that you would say, geez, I wish we'd had that at this meeting, but we're going to leave it to 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have Monday, Tuesday. I mean, if we
Are we
can
still
just...
getting the hard copy packets?
If you want them.
Okay.
So I'll move that we move the time to 6 p.m. and keep the days the same.
Second.
Any new discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we'll begin that next week.
I do want to raise one issue, and
No, next week.
I know that traditionally we have an election on a Tuesday, and the next day is the organizational meeting. And I know you were able to go last night, and get sworn in. Had you not been able to do that, you would have been faced with trying to figure out when today and
Right.
you work. I query why we're doing the meeting the day after we have an election. I mean,
It wasn't pre-planned.
no, it was,
Well, we
no,
got a
the
year-
same thing
we got a
happened
year to
when,
think about
the
this.
same thing happened when I got elected. That I had to come running into town hall because I didn't do it the
I had
night
to
before.
do the
Actually, we
following
ran into
morning.
each other in town hall. So that we would be sworn in, so that we could actually sit at the table. So, but
Okay.
I guess we could raise it at a later point in time.
All right,
Our
so,
meetings were Thursday, so.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Recognition of service to school committee. So,
Mr. Larrabee?
I guess we're talking about Mr. Larrabee, obviously. And, yes, Eric was on the board for 6 years, I believe. Many people stop us and talk to us and give us their, tell us things and opinion, whatever. And one of the things I tell people is how much time is actually spent and how much work it is. It's something you're always thinking about. And for Eric to be on all those years, and it's not easy. It's not easy. It does take time away from your family, and a lot of times you'll see us trying to rush out of here to go pick up someone from practice, or go try to watch a game, or this, that, and the other. And so I know I appreciated his time on the board. Does anybody have anything else to add? Okay, Eric, have fun. He's coaching now.
I move that we send a letter of thanks. I don't know, is that what we've done in the past?
Yeah,
School committee has a letter of appreciation to former school committee member Eric Larrabee. Is the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good idea, Michael. Thank you. Daniel Marks, our student representative, is here today. Nice. Good man. AKA Mr. Westport. What do you got for us?
Not too much. I'll try and speed it up. All right. Thank you very much. I know it's been an eventful couple of weeks and a lot of change going on. I want to apologize for missing last meeting because I had the 24-hour bug. It was horrible. But as we know, Westport High has suffered a traumatic loss a few weeks ago. This loss has impacted so many lives. On the Friday of the week, on the Friday of that week, students and teachers alike, in honor of Peter Habib, dressed up in their finest dresses, suits, shirts, and ties, just as he had done. Over the last couple of weeks, I personally have never seen us come together and be so strong and accepting in this time. Here, I forgot the photo, but I don't know if you guys saw the photo that was taken here with all the students dressed up. So that was really moving, the amount of students who participated in that. The student council, we're stocking up for this inventory for the school store right now. We're working on new designs for apparel and also other things. We're trying to sell pencils and pens, just stuff that people need that if they forget it or lose it, they can buy. We're also developing a schedule to sell during both breaks and lunches. The NEASC visit, I believe it went very well. The panel presentation for NEASC on March 10th, Ms. Tootle asked me to mention them. It was Dalton Bryant, Allison Duart, Jacob and Michael Fryer, me, Spencer Martins, Amanda Nicholas, Morgan Nicholas, Melanie Smeen, and Emma Wilkinson. And just wanted to thank them for participating, and they did a phenomenal job. Also, we'd like to thank the staff, the teachers, everybody who supported, the parents, you guys who have supported in Westport's high school quest for accreditation. The music program, the chorus will be performing on Monday, May 20th, and the jazz rock ensemble will be performing on Tuesday, May 21st. Both performances will be here at the high school, and the concert starts at 6:30. The guidance department, they've hosted multiple events in which students from the 8th grade were spoken to by students that attend the high school about coming here next year and why they should and why Westport High School is a great school for them and what we have to offer. They also had a scheduling night for underclassmen to choose their schedules for next year. The counseling department at WHS is hosting a Credit for Life fair sponsored by Bay Coast Bank. This will be offered to the junior class, and this will occur tomorrow, Thursday, April 11th, 2012, from 7:30 to 10:40 a.m. The school committee is welcome to join. The counseling department at WHS is hosting a tolerance awareness seminar for all grades this Friday, April 12th. This is a student-led initiative and a collaborative effort with Somerset Berkeley Regional High School's ABC Club, which is the anti-bullying club. The seminar is titled Be the Change, and it will run from 8:30 to 9 a.m. for freshmen and juniors, and will be repeated 9:30 to 10 a.m. for the sophomores and seniors. It will take place in the auditorium, and once again, you guys are welcome to join. The counseling department at WHS is hosting a national speaker, Mr. Chris Herron of Hoop Dreams, to speak to all grades and incoming freshmen from the Westport Middle School. This will occur on Tuesday, April 23rd at 1 p.m. in the auditorium. You guys are also welcome to attend that as well. And guidance is very busy as they are receiving many scholarship forms and getting ready for the seniors to go off to college and people choosing their classes for next year. SAD, Ms. Silva would like to invite the school committee members to attend the SAD Health Fair on Friday, 7:40 to 10:30 as well. The international exchange, the foreign exchange student visit went very well. The teachers, hosts, the families, and the students all enjoyed having them. Also, we have 24 students who will be leaving for Europe on Sunday night. They will return on Tuesday the 23rd, and they'll be visiting Austria, Italy, France. Chaperones are Ms. Botcher, Ms. McGuire, Mrs. August, and Ms. Mexis. The advocates, they're keeping very busy. They have the Memorial Garden and the courtyard cleanup April 30th and May 2nd. 3-on-3 basketball tournament May 24th. The Special Olympics track and field on May 10th. Special Olympics basketball at Westport High School June 13th. Westport High School Field Day June 6th. Also the Trip Family Scholarship Run on May 18th. And the Fitness Club MAC Field Day is to be announced. Yearbook, currently they're working on finishing the final pages, and they anticipate the entire yearbook will be complete the week after vacation. Seniors have been asked to make their final payment for the yearbook, and the price in total is $75. The National Honor Society, due to outside circumstances, the induction ceremony was rescheduled to Friday, April 26th. Mr. Westport was a successful night. The contestants had a fun time. I'd like to thank Ms. Vigent personally and Kristen, the co-directors, also the music boosters for putting this on and taking care of the contestants so well. And another thank you to Mr. Frost and Mr. Costa and Jeffrey Napert for handling all the behind-the-scenes lights and sound. So.
Thank you. And it seems like there's a lot of stuff going on. That's good.
Keep them busy. Yes.
Thank you. Anybody have anything?
Happened to the pistols.
Sean, wanted-
No pistols. Oh, yeah, I had to put the guns away today. Thank you. Thank you.
Danny,
Yes.
National Honor Society, what time is that? Do you have
April
I believe
26th.
I believe it's at 7, if I'm not mistaken. I believe.
Because I had it for 6 and it didn't look right.
The
Yeah,
26th.
The
That's
26th.
The 26th.
At 6.
At 6. At 6. I apologize. At 6. You're right. You're right.
Okay. I want to make sure I get there on time.
Yes. Is that all?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Dr. Colley, federal funding changes.
This was something that Mr. Sullivan wanted us to put on the agenda. The only thing that I could find is some of the discussion that revolved around Title I, Title II allocations for next year. They still don't have any its specifics, other than they're saying that perhaps those entitlement grants that we have every year may be cut by as much as 5%.
Michael? Questions?
Yeah, I mean, this seems to be up to date. This is, just came out on March 28th. There's some procedural stuff in it, and as much as that may also affect this year, I think the question came up in the budgeting for next year. So is any of our standard operating budget contingent on receiving these grant funds?
Usually what ends up happening is if we get a reduction in any of the federal grants, we just reduce the amount of services we provide. Because it's supplement, not supplanting educational services.
Okay, so the question that I had for 2014, because that's when I asked that question, I know we use some of our, or I believe we use some of our federal grant money to pay for a contract training program, responsive classroom. Is that where those funds come from?
We have used that at times in the past.
And is that the plans for 2014?
At this point, we haven't even written the grant, so
It would be my concern that that program continue. If we're going to be cutting funds, so that was one of my concerns, is that we know as part of our budget discussions what our plans are for the budget year with grants as well. So the total, this doesn't indicate the total grants that we are looking forward to with these programs, because this is not specific to Westport.
if you look at the last page on that handout, you have the FY13 allocations.
Okay, so we have a total of 821,000, and so 5% of that may be affected, according to this.
So
No more.
usually we count on the same amount, roll it over 1 year, and I don't think we've had the same amount in the last 4 years. We
So-
usually see a retrenchment.
As I said, the questions I had about it was during our budget discussion. What, as we as a school committee can do to affect that, if anything, the grant application? I mean, is there any input you would like from the school committee on allocation of that $821,000?
Well, usually we take a look at what the district improvement goals are and the building improvement goals are, and we try to allocate those grant funding sources to supplement what's already in the regular budget. Maybe usually around the area of staff development, or in the case of Title I, direct services to students.
We being the administration.
Yes.
And so my ongoing input is that the school committee has a role in my view, in preparing the request for grants, and I'd like to be included in that process, especially as we have to adjust it for the potential cuts.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Anyone else? All right, next on the agenda, discussion on Board of Selectmen action on a FY14 school committee budget submission.
I had several, we have members of the Board of Selectmen that came in, plus the town administrator. Basically, I had several school committee members mention that they were concerned with the difference between the budget that was presented from the town to the FinCom and other documents that were circulating around the different town departments that used numbers different from what the school committee had basically voted on after our budget hearing. I did ask Andy, and his understanding was that, Andy is our legal counsel, and his understanding was that the town should be presented with the budget from the school committee, because that is one of the main roles of school committee, is to come up with the school's budget. Whether it gets voted up or down at town meeting is a whole different story, but that was his take on it. So just wanted to bring that.
Mr. Healy, do you want to come up and? So just to give everyone maybe a little background, as everyone knows, the school committee starts the budget process, months in advance, and we come up with a number and we submit that number to the finance committee, the select board, or to the town administrator, and it just seems that the number they end up using in their budget is not the number that we submit, so. Jack, if you could just.
Madam Chairman?
Actually, we
reorganize?
have a new
We
chair.
Reorganize, Jack.
Okay.
Tony's the chair.
Tony,
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry I called you madam.
That's okay.
Uh,
Been called worse.
Okay. To begin with, in preparation of the overall budget, the town accountant and I first take a look at revenue. What are we going to have that we haven't had in the past to work with? You want me to sit? By the way, we have the chairman of the board, Mr. Spillett, has arrived. And I came in with Selectman Sullivan. And they're both also in the hall. I don't know if you want to call them forward.
Yeah, if they want to come up, yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to sit?
You can, Jack.
So, we begin, this is not going to work, is it? It's going to walk
working
that
very
way. So we begin with what new revenue we might have to work with. And in this case, the numbers are as follows. We have 2.5 increase, and that's I believe $525,835. We have an estimated new growth. That's $175,000. We were fortunate enough and did some things that were responsible for generating a free cash number that was $828,000 and change. And the assessors freed up $100,000 in overlay surplus. So we basically had about $1.6 million in new money to work with. I requested that the department submit level services budgets and believe that we could also address some of our our capital needs and other needs and deal with the articles that are frequently on the town meeting warrant, which also generate spending. And it's the school budget, of course. I think it was the 27th of March that you finally finalized that number of $777,700. The level services budgets of general government, on the general government side, were produced in January of the year. And they totaled an increase of about 1/3 of the money that we have available, or about $500,000 in additional spending. The articles on town meeting warrant, and those included the capital budget financing, which is very minimal in the first year, $15,000. The general fund articles, $92,416 at this point. The PCB monitoring, $50,000. Projected snow and ice deficit. Oh, by the way, this is a little over $2,000 less. It's going to come in at $157 and change, but I've been carrying in. You have the figure of $160,000. Supplements to budgets, about $70,000, $69,887, and putting a modest $30,000 additional money into stabilization fund to bounce it up over $900,000, just to show the rating services that we're moving in the right direction, because we will be going out for borrowing, hopefully, after town meeting. And that left us with about $67,000 in the till, with a $500,000 number that I built into the budget based on the fact that that money was available, and about, as you can see, 1/3 as well of the dollars available to us. So 1/3 to the general government, 1/3 to the school department, and a split in terms of school general government and other articles that appear on the town meeting warrant. So that's it in a nutshell and very brief summary of the process. I mentioned last night at the Finance Committee meeting that I learned a long time ago that if it's not God's fault, it's my fault. And so I wouldn't mind taking the blame for having produced the number for the school department budget in this process before you came up with your number. But somebody needed to plug something in, and we hadn't received anything at that time. You know the magic March 10th date came around, and we wanted to produce as much as possible. So,
Jack, thanks. If I may, I think with the concern is that number, a number gets thrown out there, and originally that 5 was 3 something.
yeah, it was a 2.5%.
So the number gets thrown out there, and it's kind of like a like a leading question. It's kind of people kind of tend to agree and start using that number before we actually submit a number. So I feel that it puts us at a disadvantage. I mean, if it's a matter of having to get a number, earlier, whatever needs to be done, I mean, that's what we'll have to do. But it just kind of lets the air out of the bag. At that point, all the hours and work and for us to come up with a number, just
yeah. Well, I understand your first number was $1.6 million increase.
And it took a lot to bring that down to 777.
Yeah, but as you can see, our new revenue, which is the 2.5 in the projected or the estimated new growth of that totals just over 700,000. That's all our new money. The lion's share of the free cash amount is generated as a result of general government side activities, with a few exceptions. And there's a limited amount of dollars. I mean, I understand that you've got needs. Every department does, unmet needs. Question is, how are we going to divide it up? What needs are going to get met, what aren't? And that there are limited resources. And you see that $67,000 down the bottom? We just have to all pray that nothing else happens during the next fiscal year that needs to be addressed with money. That's not a big number. So, I think the selectmen and I are here to work with you. The Finance Committee Chair, I know, is on his way here. Should, in fact, be here. Hey, Buzzy. Buzzy's home and present. So, we're all here to work with you, not in opposition to you, in order to try and find ways to find a middle ground to meet as much of the need as we possibly can. So,
Caroline, and then Michelle.
My only concern is that when I'm looking at the budget that you presented to the FinCom, is that there's increases, 19% to the highway department, snow and ice 79%, almost 12% to the cemetery department. Increases over last year's budget.
Yeah.
You know, our increase is I don't have the new sheet.
3.29.
Ours is less than all these other departments, and you were the one that came up with, or the departments came up with these numbers saying this is what we need, and they got what they needed. We gave our number and said this is what we need, and it's sort of like, well, I don't have enough money to give it to you, so therefore I'm going to give you less. And it just doesn't seem equitable. It just doesn't seem that we have the same space at the table as the town departments do. You know, the police got a 4.17 increase. The highway department, like I said, 19.39 increase. You know, I don't know why, but if you look down the list, most of the increases, most of the departments got a higher percentage increase than we did. And so it doesn't seem equitable. We're also less than half the budget. I hear at Board of Selectmen meetings constantly how we are $16 million of the budget. That's not the number I'm seeing. It's not, give me 16 million, I'll be happy. But that's the number that gets thrown around. That's the number that constantly gets quoted. You're half the budget, you're 16 million. We're not half the budget, we're not 16 million. We haven't even asked for 16 million, and I believe our request is 49% of the budget. It's not even 50%. We used to be a higher percentage of the budget some years back before the 2008 debacle. We keep sliding back. Every year we get pushed further and further back. The town side, their needs, nobody's needs are being met. I understand that. Everybody is going with less. And we do. We start with a budget of $1 million and change and saying, this is really what we need. This is really what we need. But we understand that there aren't enough dollars at the table. And so therefore, we go through an excruciating process of trying to figure out the priorities and what comes off the table. And everything that comes off the table hurts our kids, hurts the kids of this town, because they're going without as a result.
Jack, could you just
Yes.
quickly maybe just explain some of those other increases?
Sure. I'd be glad to. You'll see with few exceptions that those percentages, why they may be higher in some instances than they have been in the past. For example, snow and ice. This has been an effort to try and get a real snow and ice, or closer to a real number. On average, you spend about $250,000 on snow and ice, snow and ice work during the winter months. So about $250,000. The selectmen wanted to move a little bit closer to that, and instead of the $69,635 that's been the appropriation every year since in living memory, I guess, they bumped it up to $125,000. So that's a 79% increase, but it's only half the average. So that's not a real number either. And the highway department, as you all know, because you've lived through it, I haven't that often, there's always an increase in a supplemental appropriation for the highway department. And nobody knows until recently much about how to really estimate what the actual cost to run that department might be on an annual basis. We're still struggling with trying to manage that in a way that is appropriate. But we think we've got a budget that makes some sense and might be able to be achieved without having to come back to town meeting in the fall, as has been the practice for many, many years. And so that's a little better than a 19% increase over the previous year's appropriation. Let's see, selectmen's budget. Let's go to the selectmen's budget. Selectmen's budget. The fiscal 13 appropriation was $198,479. This year, it's $267,793. I recommended and the board approved budgeting of $120,000 for the town administrator's position instead of the $84,000 that had been budgeted in the past. So that's the explanation of that increase. Largely, that's the explanation there. You know, I could go on with some of the other planning board. The planning board has been struggling with how to structure their office staff and to get a good person on board. I'm sure that the person we have now is going to be around for a while and going to do an excellent job. He's got better credentials than anyone who's occupied that position recently, and he lives in town. But that's an 18% increase. There's an increase in that office and a reorganization and a reconfiguration of their staffing. I could go on. There's town hall annex budget. The town hall annex is falling apart and needs an awful lot of work in terms of its systems, the heating system, the electrical system. We've been spending a lot of time keeping boilers working in both buildings, and so that budget is up 22%, from $96,000 to $118,000. I could go on, but what we're doing is we're trying to reflect a level services budget, not a level funded budget. What do we need in order, and this is what you went through in your process as well. What do we need to do at a bare minimum to perform our function and to get the job done and to keep our buildings operational? And we're going to hopefully get a capital budget approved for the first time in this town at the town meeting. That will become a factor in our budgeting going forward as well, because that next year will be a $170,000 expense, not a $15,000 expense. But at least we'll have computers that work, that we don't waste 15 minutes an hour watching that little ball go around in circles, and become much more productive in terms of our time and our work. I could go on all night. I think you get the idea. We're doing the same thing you're doing. And now, I'd like to add one more thing. None of the budgets have been approved by the selectmen or the finance committee at this point. Few of them, like the library budget, has been addressed, and I think that there's a general concurrence that we have to fund them at the minimum level that maintain their certification. And so that's likely to be the case. But the other budgets, I think, are largely unapproved. And they could very well, some of them, see reductions. I think it's much more likely that overall there'll be more reductions than additions in that process. So I'm sure that there's some room to move there. And again, we're willing to work with you. We need to work together. We need to come to an agreement, because we can't go to town meeting without one. If we do, and there's a floor fight, everybody loses. And if we don't come away with a budget that is balanced, that will work within the dollars we have available. In other words, if we vote more money than we have to work with, then we're all going to be back to town meeting in a couple of weeks to try and do it again. So we might as well take the time now to do it right and to reach an agreement. And probably the best agreement will be one that none of us like. At least it'll be workable.
I actually had much of what she had already said. But in addition, what is the split when you figure out the warrant articles as well? And also, are there any other departments in town that are required to improve yearly like the schools are? We are required by state law to show improvement. We are still under 50% of the town's budget. Most of the surrounding districts are 55, 60% of their town budget. And while I understand, I get the level service, I know there's no money. Last year we were level funded for the most part. Now we're working to level service. We can't keep living like that in the schools.
Thanks, Michelle. Michael?
But, well, I have a question.
Yeah.
Can I ask this question?
I'm sorry.
What are we when you
Oh,
add in
are
the dollars
there
for the
other-
warrant article, you said we were
Yeah.
one-third.
Well-
So you can easily break the schools out of that. Where does that put us? That
Well,
third.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of factors. I mentioned before that we worked with the superintendent and the staff to try to address some of your issues and needs in other ways. The capital budget, the 2 vehicles are there.
Right.
The article for the PCBs,
Right.
that's there. Also in the capital article, we addressed the telephone problem, and I know you didn't budget that to resolve that problem, but we have it in the capital budget. There's 84,000, forget, in that to deal with the telephone issues so that you can communicate between the schools.
That's townwide, though.
That's right. But,
That 64
well,
is
there's
townwide,
84,000, 64,000 of it, I believe, is school-related.
Is that right?
I don't think so, but
You don't,
it should be about half. I think the
I
phone
think,
the
well, I
phone
got that
system is
number
half
from your
town.
staff, but be that as may, it's significant. Also, we've been working together, Keith Novo and Beth Lewis and I have been working with Valerie Bain on the cable budget and renegotiating a new cable contract and trying to figure out what we could do to get the E back in PEG access and build an educational element into that.
But that would be additional programming.
Right.
That's
But what I'm trying to reflect to you is that there's been a real effort here to find ways to assist
I know
the
that.
school department. We built $35,000 into the annual budget so we could staff an effort to have a video tech club in three of the schools, all levels
But
of the
that's
school
coming
system.
out of that,
That's coming out of the
stuff.
cable budget, that's right.
which is money that should be coming to the schools anyway.
Well, absolutely, there should have been an educational element in the PEG access program for a long time. I can't go back in time, we can only go forward.
I understand.
And we're making an effort to do that. So those are just some of the things that we're doing to try and address some of the needs that you can address yourselves within a recommended budget. So this is a group effort, this is a team effort, this is not something that we can do. We all have problems with the timing of this. Not the least of our problems is that we still don't know what the state's going to do. They used to call what we got back from the state revenue sharing. Do you remember that? That's when they acknowledged that it's our money to begin with. It's state aid now. We're on welfare. But they can't even seem to get their act together in a timely way to meet the municipal calendar. And there was one year that it was November before we had our state aid number. Now typically it's right after the first of the fiscal year. But that doesn't help us to get a budget done, to meet a March 10th date, or to even meet our first week in May town meeting date. So nothing seems to be working from a timing perspective a calendar, a process standpoint. We've got to overcome all that and still get to May 7th and with a number that we agree on.
Michael?
Yeah, first, I want to thank you, Jack, for coming to our meeting. For a fellow that works part-time in town, we see quite a bit of you at various meetings. And I had an opportunity to sit down and review the revenues and projected budgets where they stand with Jack this week. And I see the dilemma, not to contradict what you're saying, but I actually do see some things working here. I see good communication, and I saw it very important that we take an opportunity to meet with you and appreciate the Board of Selectmen and FinCom being here to see what we need to do or what we're being asked to revise. So it is clear to us now that we have a request for $770,000, and we're being asked to live within a $500,000, but that's still not final. So we have some new business to put on our agenda in the future. I do have a couple of areas. Oftentimes when visiting with FinCom, they ask us, well, where are we going to get the money? So I'm going to just briefly look through your projected budget and wonder, first of all, is it the right time to adjust that snow and ice budget at that full amount? We've gone, we've doubled the, more than doubled the line item, I think, for snow and ice. And the reason I bring that up is, as we know, that's one of the few areas you can deficit spend. I don't like the idea of deficit spending. We all want to live within our means, but that would be one area. And other than that, the highway department, certainly we realize the highway department is quite an extensive array of operations and funding. We do have that Chapter 90. Is it Chapter 90 funds that come in?
Yeah.
And that's, what amount is Chapter 90?
Well, I'm sorry. The Chapter 90 funds could be significantly increased depending on what the legislature does on the transportation bond bill. But those are for highway work that is resurfacing the roadways. For the most part, that translates into contractual services that are bid out to companies that do that type of resurfacing work. There are some limited availability of getting road machines, machines that are used on the highways for maintenance through the Chapter 90 funds, and we've done that in the past. But and we're paying a lease, for example, with Chapter 90 money. But it doesn't translate into anything that's going to help us budgetarily.
Okay. I just didn't know if there was a ratio between increased Chapter 90 and therefore the highway operating budget also is increased because they're handling more.
No, it doesn't.
Then the thing I'll leave you with in terms of how it does affect the schools, we have various entryways into the schools. I don't know if we need to survey where the property lines are. We've had some difficulty filling potholes because it's school grounds, not highway grounds. We have some areas that have actually been brought to my attention from our public safety officials. And if there's any way, if we're going to end up with increasing a highway budget where we can address some of, maybe we have to make the entryways into the schools public roads, I don't know, but they're in tough shape. So, but my main point is I see some progress being made. We have to go back and look at our numbers, which we've already done. I'm not making any, I haven't seen anything in our budget that is considered a postponement, but we will look at that. And I wanted to thank you, and if there's any way this theme of working together I gave an example of highway coming into our roadways here in school. May help us with that, so
Thanks,
we look
Mike.
forward to the continued
Thanks, Mike.
cooperation.
Caroline?
I know that you talked about level services. 500,000 additional doesn't level service us. Our level service number is closer to the $700,000. We're asking a very minimal increase. The number that's been plugged into the budget is not even a level services budget. We have all of these requirements, and we don't have the ability to say, no, we choose not to do that. We have to do it. The state says do it, you do it. We can't. We can't say no for legal reasons, for ethical reasons.
Yeah.
And as a result, we only have to take away from other places potentially to fill that 200 and something thousand dollar gap. We don't have anywhere to go to fill it. We've been charging our parents. That's how we filled the void last year. Oh, let's up the bus fee. Let's cut the buses back so that, you know, people are now pooled and being picked up in pooled locations. Let's cut here. Let's cut there. Let's raise the fees here. Let's raise the fees there. So it's coming out of our parents' pockets
Yep.
in order to backfill these things. And, you know, at a certain point in time, we are one of many communities in the South Coast. Our funding is the least. Our teachers get paid less than all the teachers in the neighboring communities. We're not asking for increases. I saw the discussion about the Council on Aging person. You couldn't hire somebody because the salary was too low, so you had to up the salary. I understand that. That's reasonable. But we have those same problems. We have problems in our buildings. We have problems in our parking lots. We have maintenance issues. We have deferred maintenance beyond comprehension. We have lists and lists and lists of things, capital improvement things, items that we want to do that every year we look at and we go, oh, well, can't do it this year because there's not any money. So we have the same issues you have. My problem is that you're dealing with the town's needs and we're being provided with a number and our needs aren't being looked at. That's what we do. And we did. And we took a really strong look at what we could do without and brought it down and brought it down and kept taking more away from the kids and more away from our children. We got to a number, and that's a number. And that's what we need in order to move forward next year.
I think what's important to remind folks and everyone, in the last 5 years, the school's budget, the spending, the budget, but the actual money spent went up, increased by 6% in 5 years. 1.2% a year. In the same 5 years, the town's budget increased by 8%. 1 point, whatever that is a year. You know, this notion that we, you know, you hear it all the time. You keep asking, we don't get it. We're not getting it. We keep asking because we're not getting it. It would not take much in our budget to get us over that. Every year we fight to stay afloat. We need more help, a little bit more in our budget. Then it would be much easier to live with that 2.5 if that's all that was out there. But it just seems like every year we're just shy of that. And yeah, we have to ask. That's why we're all here. We're all here to advocate for our schools and the students. And we want to make it a better place. And it's very difficult, like Carolina mentioned. You know, we cannot not hire a professional that we need to service a child, to help a child, or do this program. And you know, we just can't put these things off. We're mandated to do these things. Whenever we have to do that, we have to make a cut. We have to raise fees, and we hear it all the time. And, you know, I pay, and you know, what are they getting out of it? They're just helping to, you know, they're helping with the budget. That's all they're doing. It's just, I don't know. So the notion that we keep getting and we keep asking for more and more, I mean, it's just, history proves that that's just not been the case. I mean, our budget, we've spent 6% more in the last 5 years. That's not 2.5 per year. 2.5 per year would be 12%. 12.5%. Half of that in 5 years.
Yeah.
I don't think our 777 number is, way out there. I think it's a reasonable number. I think Dr. Colley came up with a number yesterday. I don't know if he's remembers that number. What it would take from the town side, a reduction on the town side budget to give us that 277. I think it was less than 1%, Dr. Colley.
0.98.
We looked at 200,000, not the whole
200,000.
277.
So 200,000 from the town side would be just shy of a 1% cut, rollback on the town side budget, and that would go a long way for the schools. That's my 2 cents. Mr. Barron, we have Mr. Carney here, Mr. Barron here from the Finance Committee.
I'd like to offer one more thing, probably because some others may not say this, but I can, certainly. The tax rate is the 13th lowest in the state. This town needs to step up and start providing more by way of local dollars to meet the needs of the community, and that includes the school needs. It's simple math, really. You just take a look at those other schools in the region that are doing a better job, or doing the 55 to 60% that we talked about. Somebody up here talked about earlier of the school budget, and take a look at their tax rate. I think some people need to start thinking long and hard about that, and it's not a popular thing here in town to suggest that an override be approved, or that a permanent increase in the base be considered. But I think that this is going to be a perennial problem until you get out of the cellar in terms of tax rate in the state. Just a thought.
I agree.
I agree.
Mr. Brown, do you want to add anything?
First of all, is this on?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Can you hear me?
Right up to it.
Thanks for the invitation. I'm glad to have the opportunity to talk about this with everybody. I know pretty much everybody in the room except the newest member. I can't speak for the Finance Committee. I can only speak for myself. And what I want to say is, I think all of us in town have a stake in the schools. Whether we're parents, whether we have kids in the schools or not, we all have a stake in the schools. I don't have to make that case to you. But we all also have a stake in all the other departments. We all rely on the police department, we rely on the fire department. I understand why this kind of negotiation has to go on. But on the other hand, I think it'll be most constructive if we all understand we're in the same boat here. We've all got a stake in all of this. I must say I'm most pleased with the kinds of suggestions that were raised by Michael. I think what we need to do is trust each other, look at each other's budgets, negotiate, try to figure out what we can do in the situation that the town's taxpayers have put us in. I agree with Jack. We really need more money. But we only have the money that the taxpayers have been willing to give us without an override, which we have tried to get a couple of times. So I'm here really just to say, let's keep this discussion going, let's keep the negotiation going, but let's try to do it in the spirit of all knowing each other, being citizens in the same town, and being all in the same boat, and really sharing the same stake in the entire town's budget.
Thanks, Bud. And Jack mentioned, and Mr. Barron mentioned we just simply need more funding. And I don't think either one of them, I don't want to speak for them, but we're not talking ton of money here. I mean, it's like I mentioned earlier about we're just barely keeping our head above water, and it's, you know, it would not take much. I mean, I'm not prepared to give you a figure or a number, but it wouldn't take much that would cure a lot of ills in this town, a lot of problems with the budget, and then we could really start building. We're just not there yet. Dr. Collins?
I just wanted to thank everybody for coming. Jack and I have been working at this for a while. I was looking back at the emails, and we've been going back to January as we try to push these numbers back and forth. I think the part that I want to reiterate is that idea of what it takes for a school to run. You know, it's like when we talk about other departments needing their level service, and you're talking about police department or the fire department needing to account for increases in gas prices, because without gas their vehicles don't go, and if the vehicles don't go, they are not on the road. For school committee and the schools, we have other things we have to build into our budget besides just the regular, you know, here's what our salary increases are, here's what our contracts say we have to do. We also, like I think Mrs. Dort mentioned, we have some very real requirements that we can't wiggle around. You know, when we built this budget, I know the 777 figure didn't come till later in March, but way back in January we kept saying we have a certain amount of needs that we're calling level service. Those are the contractual needs, and then the mandates due to the regulations. I mean, I sat 3 times with the special ed director and Melissa and myself, and we brought all the names of all the students that are in special education, tried to see where they would go next year, and we squeezed that, and that is the number. So it wasn't like we were trying to even pad it at this point. I'm more concerned that if we have any more kids coming into special education from anywhere else next year, we're not going to have it. So when I look at a number of 500,000, it may cover our contractual obligations, but it would force us to cut somewhere else in order to get the ELL training, in order to get the special education, in order to fund our out of district placements. So something else has to go. I know we have a couple of things that we've talked about, including going into some of the reserves that we have in some of the revolving accounts. You know, perhaps those could go towards the increases, but you know, that's up to the school committee. At this point, I'm very concerned about not getting at least a level service budget, because we're going to end up cutting something.
And I think what happens is, you know, the budgets get passed and we move on and the school's open and kids get on the bus and everybody just assumes, well, you know, I guess everything's okay. But, you know, like Dr. Colley mentioned, is, you know, if there's a mandate, something we need to do, we do that, and, you know, that money was cut from some other part of the budget that just kind of, you know, gets, you know, it's forgotten. It's not talked about anymore. So everyone out there just assumes that, well, everything's okay. They went ahead and they managed to survive another year again with, you know, with whatever number they ended up getting. Every time we don't get that number that we asked for, we're cutting something. We're moving something. We're doing something. We're causing change, year after year, change and moving personnel. I mean, I don't know. I'd like my child or anyone's child to, you know, have some continuity in the schools and the staff, and we're always moving people around to, you know, to make things happen. And I know that's not good, and we should try to get away from doing that. So I don't know where. Does anybody else? Mr. Carney, do you want to say something, or Mr. Spurlett, Michael, anybody?
Can
Carolyn?
I? At the FinCom meeting yesterday, there was a suggestion by the chair of the FinCom, Mr. Barron, who's here, that we convene a panel of 2 school committee members, 2 FinCom members and 2 Board of Select members, similar to what was done, I believe, 2 years ago budget cycle, to try and reach this consensus that we're all talking about, to try and see where we can maybe massage things. And because you're right, Mr. Healy, a fight on town meeting floor is not a benefit to anybody. And I don't know, the selectmen weren't at that meeting, obviously. I don't know what the selectmen's position with regard to doing that. I know we have a very short time frame to get something like that done, but I, as a school committee member, would be in favor of trying to convene such a panel.
Jack?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just asked the chairman of the selectmen to come to the mic and address that. I know that there's a willingness to do just that and a recognition of the need to do it.
Good evening. I'd like to congratulate those who won the last election. Michelle. We had our last meeting, we did vote, the Board of Selectmen did vote to put 2 people on that subcommittee budget, whatever what you're going to be calling it. We have not at this time appointed any one of us to that meeting. That'll be done this Tuesday coming at our next meeting. It's on the agenda that we will appoint 2 individuals to represent the Board of Selectmen.
That's good, thank you. So,
The time is short, so we probably should get some idea of when you'd be available to sit and do that. Now, obviously, with 2 members of each group, we don't need to worry about posting. We can, basically meet any time. Everybody can get together. So, you got any preferences in terms of time?
I would like to be involved in being one of the members of that panel.
I'd also like to be involved in.
yeah, I mean, it's, Buzzy?
Could I just make a suggestion? Once you pick your 2 members, there are computer programs that we can use to try to establish knowledge. As everybody apparently knows, there are computer programs that will allow us to do that. So we've already picked our 2 members from the Finance Committee, Mark Carney and myself. I don't know whether you have some idea.
Tuesday, we're going to pick.
Okay, you have no idea in advance who these people are going to be. But we can start meeting as soon as it's picked.
So there's a chance, Mr. Spillett, that we could meet next week?
Sure.
At the end of the week?
Well, it's already on the agenda, and we'll have 2 people. So Monday's a holiday, that's why we're meeting on a Tuesday. And I understand getting through this town, getting an override, it's almost next to impossible if you go by the years. We all understand that. So I think we have to deal the best that we can. My thing is take it from town side, take it from school side. It's all the town. We're all in this together. And where do we take it from? And I think that's maybe that budget subcommittee would in fact come to a point. Just one of the clarification was just going through the budget. Technically, the town side, and just percentage-wise, we're approximately 48% of the budget is on the town side. 48% of the budget is also on the school side, and the other 4% is for the regional schools, still part of education. I mean, we're paying that out, so it's not part of your operating budget side here. So it isn't that we have that extra money. So both based on both the town and the school department, for all intents and purposes, we're 50-50. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Thanks, Mr. Spillett. Congratulations. All right, so I mean that's what we'll do with Michelle and Melissa. I'm sorry, Carolina and Melissa are willing to do that, and we'll have your people call our people, and we'll figure something out. And thanks, Jack. Thank you. Thanks, buddy.
I'm going to stay here for the 319 discussion.
Be our guest.
Who was again, Carolina and
Melissa. Melissa Pacheco. Thanks for volunteering. All right, next on the agenda, hold on. would motion that we table the mid goals.
It'll take 2 seconds.
2 seconds?
Second.
2 seconds, Michael.
They asked for a second.
I did, but we'll let Mr. Colley.
It's simple. This is the time of the year the school committee agreed that I would provide them with information on progress towards personal goals and some evidence as to how things are going in terms of my performance versus or vis-a-vis the rubric that the state has put out to be used for educators, including top-level administrators such as the superintendent. So, the red one's got the evidence, blue is goal 1, and there's a few other pieces of evidence. This is available. I just wanted to know if school committee wanted to look at it as as an email file or a thumb drive, or if you just want to stop by the offices and review it. It's extensive. I don't want to kill any more trees, but I wanted to have some guidance as to how you want to review it. And I also provided you with some ideas as to what the forms that we've been using look like. Obviously, this is not the end of the year, but it would be a similar goal to look at superintendent's performance as a midway point. So it's kind of like a formative assessment. So it's for your information. I would just love to know if you want me to scan it and send it, put it on a thumb drive, or you want to come see it.
I think it's fine as is, and I think the members could go and take a look at that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work scanning that amount of material.
It's a lot of stuff. So just an update, as part of the superintendent's evaluation, there's a mid-year goal review process, and so this is that pile there is the superintendent's, he's got to document, he's got to show us, what
Evidence.
of his goals and what he's been doing, so that's what that is. Michael?
So that's in addition to the email dated April 5th, is that?
Yes.
Okay, so the April 5th is a
That's
summary?
included in here. Is just a small summary because obviously I didn't know what you guys wanted. That's why I said if you wanted to see the rest, it would be in the office.
What I would suggest would be in order is reviewing this and then taking advantage of the timing and addressing any of these issues at the next meeting. From any revisions that may be appropriate, or communication. I mean, this is part of the process, but certainly we, now that we see that there's more information, for instance, you've made reference to which I guess now it's public, is your weekly reports.
I've added
so those
samples as evidence.
And so the weekly reports in there?
Not all of them,
Okay.
just sample reports.
The weekly reports, which is what's highlighted, is an example of what I think we want to have further discussion on. I think that's something that we're starting a discussion here. To not respond to that, I think we want to do. I think for the benefit of new members, we want to outline this new process. I know many of us were here, but this is a new process for us that just started, and so I do think that the outline of the process, and if the process includes a mid-year communication, first you're submitting to us this information, and then for us to I mean, I guess we can just accept it and go on, or put it on new business for the future. Is that the two options?
Yeah, I mean, the report is there, Dr. Colley's report is there, so I would encourage the members to stop by one day and take a look, and then, yeah, we could discuss it in the future, Melissa.
Does the school committee have like a feeder for their photocopier to scan where it's pretty quick to scan it, or is it very difficult to scan?
No, it has a feeder, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, I can scan it by section and send it. I know some people have problems at home when, because even that amount is, like I said, I can separate it into sections so that people can see it.
Well, so you could get together with Nikki and
Just,
figure out how you want it. If
okay.
you,
all right,
Yeah,
I'll do
if
I'd,
I just want to send it to your email account, and all of a sudden your
Yeah,
email
no.
goes.
go ahead, Mike.
I'd like to see at least this document scanned and put up online if that's appropriate. In addition to that, I think the weekly reports that are referenced in this report, we should be putting online. There's been a lot of communication about the weekly reports, the timeliness, the grammar, the lack of substance, and to bring it out in this report is, and then just say, okay, we're just going to accept this now. I think we have to spend some time on
Mike,
this.
those weekly updates are exactly what they are.
They're weekly updates that talk about hunting trips. Come on, Tony, it's been a source of
okay,
major
okay.
problems, flow of information, and they're referenced here as,
All right, let's-
as a,
okay, thank you.
they're referenced in this public document as the weekly reports are problematic, in my view.
We'll discuss it. Thanks, Mike. Anything else, Dr. Cole?
Just wanted to say I'm probably one of the few superintendents that does that.
Thank you. I know I enjoy. I look forward to them every Monday morning or Sunday night. Anything else?
Nope.
Dr. Colley, middle school study update.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that CGKV engineers will be here tomorrow. What time, Mike? They'll be here at 8 o'clock looking at the middle school to try to finalize that report that they have for us. They're hoping to have the draft or the final by the time we get back from vacation. So you'll have that. And if I can go up to the update for MASPO,
Absolutely.
I did call them. Their schedule would be such that they may be able to come either at the very end of June or the very beginning of September to do the review. It takes about $5,000 to have them come in and do the review. But
I'll just
the-
explain, please.
the MASPO review was, Mr. Sullivan had asked that besides the audit that we have every year where the auditors for the town come in, take a look at our end of the year report and our books along with the town's books, Mr. Sullivan wanted a review that was different, that would take a look not just at what the book said, but also the operations in the business office. So I did make contact with them to see what it would take. I knew that it'd be about $5,000 because they've done it in some of the other districts.
So we'll narrow a date down and we'll get it done.
I'm just saying, do you want it out of this year's budget or next year's budget?
This year.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you. Now on to the action agenda update on the Westport Middle School stormwater runoff project. Mr. McAllister.
Okay, good evening, everyone. John McAllister with Norfolk Ram, as well as Wayne Perry from Norfolk Ram, Betsy White from the Westport River Watershed Alliance. Just wanted to bring everyone up to speed what's happened in the past 2 weeks. We had 4 action items, I believe. I'm going to go off the top of my head. Wayne has the notes. The first one was the concern over PCB concentrations in the soils. So that following Monday, we went out, took 2 soil samples. We did some hand augers, collected them, sent them to the lab. I got the results back last night, and they were all below reportable concentrations, meaning they were below the detectable limits that they had at the lab. So hopefully that puts that issue to rest. We did it at the only spots where it was likely that stormwater could actually reach from the school, because it's surrounded by that, almost like a moat, if you will, the swale that goes around it. It kind of protects it. So
Not almost, it is.
Yeah. Okay. So we had that. I sent out an email. I know it was kind of late in the afternoon, so I do have extra copies if anyone would like that, the memorandum with the lab results in the graph. You guys have it?
Yeah, we have it somewhere.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
All this stuff is.
The second action item was.
The other item were, we'll do a tag team here. We wanted to see the bid specification. We provided that at the meeting that we held, the week after we were here. We're doing that to Dr. Kelly's office along with a copy of the grant, and a copy of the bids. Now also, we just received,
They're right
Jack
here.
is just giving you a copy of the letters from the planning board and the fire department, their review of the project, and they have no jurisdiction according to their list. The only other thing that's left on the list that we had was to talk about the maintenance requirements, and that's why we called the meeting back on
The second.
of which
Mike was
Mike was
there,
here.
Chris Gonzalez from the Highway Department, and a couple of members of the Watershed Alliance were there. So what we kind of settled upon was the Watershed Alliance had drafted a memorandum of understanding in terms of the maintenance, and what the responsibilities would be is that the Highway Department will maintain those catch basins that we talked about last time that are like the first line of defense that captures all the sediment. They'll maintain those like they maintain the ones in the roadway through their annual budget. They agreed to that. And then the Watershed Alliance will take care of the plantings, any vegetation that dies, they'll take care of replacing it. They might work with a local garden club, but they'll be working on that. So the impact on the school maintenance division we think is going to be minimal. The swales, they will present a challenge for mowing because they're depressed. So what we're specifying a grass seed that it kind of just grows and flops over. It doesn't need to be mowed. So they can just mow around them, exactly.
So in essence, there's really no extra maintenance required from the school department. Either the highway department or the Watershed Alliance will take care of all the other issues. That was the list that we had. I hope it matches your list. And if not, can you tell us what we missed?
No, I think that's it, and hold on, Mike. I wanna apologize for not making the meeting. I was actually out of town, and but I did have the occasion. I spoke to Michael and
Okay.
Mr. Duar, and
And everyone's on my minutes as well.
he was satisfied, and I'm okay with the way things are going. Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah, basically, I think this clarifies some issues. There's one question I still have, because there's still a couple of potential changes. The plan that was reviewed by the planning board and the fire department is much different than the plan you had come to us at the previous meeting. So the changes in the plan, including...
Which previous meeting?
Last March 27th?
Well, let's say the plan that you put out a project summary on your website about the Westport rain garden, the original project summary.
That definitely has changed.
Right.
We got your input, we got other town departments' input, we changed a lot before it went out to bid. That's what we brought to you at the last meeting, that's what's been submitted as the most recent.
That's what I'm clarifying, is
Okay.
our meeting on the 27th was the first time we saw the changes.
Right.
So that's why those pending requests of planning board, fire department were still in place. We never heard that you have changed the plan so it doesn't affect traffic, it doesn't affect parking spaces. So we appreciate you following, but I assume that the planning board reviewed the revised plan. So the date of the revised plan is what?
Probably sometime in February of 2013.
Okay. So kind of recent.
You need to know, I can get it for you?
No, that's okay.
just
That's
February.
okay.
February.
2013, yeah.
All right, so because,
Based on all the comments that we received, we revised them all. We thought we took care of everything, and then that's the ones that we're going for.
so did the planning board have any input on the traffic patterns that you had proposed?
We didn't propose any traffic pattern.
The original plan did.
Oh, the original, but we didn't have that reviewed.
That's what I'm asking. That's my question.
No,
Was-
because when we brought it to you, you said you didn't want to do that. So we took it out of the design and then submitted that.
They've
to
seen the latest plans. The planning board only have
My
seen the
question
latest plans.
is, the planning board first look at this was in February,
Yes, it was, well, yes.
or actually
Since this last meeting.
April 10th.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
last
Okay.
period. Yes.
And the engineering on this project has been going on for 2 years?
Since 2009, I believe.
Okay. And this is the first time the planning board looked at it? Were we incorrect
We've
that
done a
the...
number of these in other towns, and the planning boards usually do not have any desire to look at this because we're not changing anything. The only thing we changed originally in the drawings you saw was the traffic pattern within the parking lot. That's not on the street. It doesn't affect the number of cars. doesn't affect the
I'm
number
looking
of
at the
parking
plans,
Mike,
sir.
hold
There's
on,
many
Mike.
more changes, and
I'm trying to answer your question. You asked about the planning board, and that's why we didn't go to the planning board at that time, because we didn't have anything to present to them that would fall into their jurisdiction.
All right, quickly, what are you getting at, Mike?
And also, I
It's
just.
the
would-
first time we saw the plan, changes were at the end of March, and the photos that we had had of record that were publicized throughout the town since '09, and I think the changes you made reference because you're running out of money. So, here we have a grant for $300,000, and the percentage of that's going into engineering is rather high, and
Well, that's not up.
No, it's not. It hasn't changed.
Carolina?
We had set this up all along. Remember when John explained it last time? We did bidding so that we could take out parts that we didn't want to do if we couldn't afford to. We didn't have the actual construction costs for all the different BMPs. We had estimates. That's why we put it out to bid, and we made it like a menu. And they'll give us the prices, and we'll pick out the ones that we can do within the budget that we were given in the grant. That's what we proposed to do, and that's what we still do.
Carolina?
I move that we approve the stormwater runoff project as submitted this last time. I wasn't able to go to the meeting. My understanding is none of the people on the committee were able, I don't know why. I was surprised to see that the people who were asking the most questions didn't even bother going to your meeting. And I appreciate that you had that meeting and went through the extraordinary steps to make sure that all of the issues that were raised by certain members of the committee were addressed. But I move that we approve the project and let them get on with doing what needs to be done.
Second.
Discussion?
Discussion.
Well, once again, I'm questioning any other changes that might take place. Any of the changes that took place so far would have had to been reported to some of the people that have signed off, planning board, fire department. You can't just come forward with these drastic changes to layouts of traffic patterns and safety issues and go ahead and make changes. This, we might be working with the local garden club. Are the hydrangeas planted yet?
In the existing BMPs?
The
one we
work that you
implemented?
did.
I'm not sure which, I don't remember off the top of my head which plants are in there. The plants, everything that's not a plug was planted in October, yes. So if there were hydrangeas spec'd out, there were hydrangeas planted.
Okay, I don't see any hydrangeas, and I see your publication about these plantings and things. I don't know if we have to plant them. I think.
Mike,
There's
answer.
wrong drawings, I think. You gotta look at the most up-to-date ones. You're talking about you're looking on your computer, which ones do you have?
This is the one that was the original plan.
Mike, but that's
okay?
not what anyone's
It's been
working off of
superseded,
anymore.
It's
Mike.
been superseded.
Is phase one, which is on the original plan, which is where the hydrangeas are going, is that completed?
This,
That's
Betsy
it.
White, Westport River Watershed Alliance. With all due respect, I have to ask, where is this discussion going, really? Does it matter if the hydrangeas have been planted? The Watershed Alliance is paying a good chunk of the money. A lot of the money has come out of the grant. Does it really matter where the hydrangeas have been planted? Plantings have been made in the spring of last year. They will be made in the spring of this year. That will get done. The plants that are required, that have been put forth by an expert, they're gonna get done. These guys are not here to rip off the town. Come on, let's.
No one suggested.
Let's look at the big picture
let's-
and.
No one suggested
And we're
that.
trying to work with the town to get a $300,000 project completed. Let's do our best to get it completed. Let's not worry about the hydrangeas being planted here or there. These guys are doing the best they can. We have answered all the committee's questions. We are trying to clean up the Westport River. Let's get beyond these minuscule issues that can be worked out. As a side note, we've already had numbers of meetings trying to answer your questions. Let's not worry about hydrangeas, really, please. Let's just move forward, get this project going, let the river get cleaned up, and move forward
Thank
with
you.
this. It's a great project, $300,000. These guys aren't taking
What's
the
one about,
money,
Mike? Anything
putting
new?
it in their
Yeah,
pockets. We're
something's
trying to
new,
clean the river.
because
All right?
we've
Thank you.
just heard about 300,000, and we've heard about, you know.
It's not our grant, it's their grant.
It's a project that came onto the grounds, created safety problems, it spec'd out certain issues that aren't gonna be put in place, okay? The original data was questioned 3 years ago, when you came forward and said 75% of the water that comes down County Road and ends up in the basin comes from school grounds. We asked for substantial data that showed that, and you never produced that. This is not a clean up the river project. We have to live by the same guidelines that any private project falls under. No private project could start digging the type project that you did, because phase one went by this plan. So don't tell me I'm looking at the wrong plan. You came on board, someone did, I don't even know who did, because I got calls afterwards about parking areas that were being disturbed, safety issues, and my concern is we've had various versions. You came with a plan last meeting and said,
Yeah,
well,
we're
this
repeating
might be
ourselves,
done and
Michael.
that might be done.
All right.
We are,
thank you, Mike. Michael.
we are
You're
set
repeating yourself.
by the, we don't have authority to approve this.
With
All
all
in
due
favor?
respect, the
Betsy,
Board of
thank you.
Selectmen has approved this plan, so, you know, they're
Thank
the ones who approved this
How
plan.
about conservation? Because all your other rain garden projects go before conservation.
This
in
doesn't
other
affect
towns.
any wetlands.
All in favor?
NOI.
Aye.
NOI.
Opposed? Michael, you opposed?
Yes.
One opposed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen,
Thank you, gentlemen.
ladies,
Thank you, Betsy.
Dr. Colley, the transportation revolving account balance.
Well, at the last school committee meeting, you had asked to put it on the agenda so we could take another look at it. Suggestions ranged from reducing the balance, and I'm just looking for some direction. Adding one bus would be about $33,000 if we ever needed that.
Dr. Colley,
We
what would be a
could-
safe fuel surcharge amount?
If you're asking me to look into the crystal
Well,
ball.
In the last 2 years, well,
We've actually not had to pay the fuel surcharge in the last couple of years because the increases in fuel has been very, very small. So we go month by month, we look at the actual wholesale prices of fuel, and we track it year to year. Even this year has been relatively stable. I don't know where it'll go from here. It may even depend on where the economy goes.
Caroline?
So what would your recommendation be as our business manager?
If
That, a comfortable number that would build in enough of the unknown crystal ball? What would you recommend that number be?
If you leave about $33,000 in there, I know we can add a bus in case we get any increases in enrollment that we have to deal with, or changes in the routes. If you you have to then choose, have that in there for that possibility, or have it just about the same amount for a substantial increase to about $4 a gallon of diesel wholesale in the next fiscal year.
So what would those two numbers be?
Oh, those two numbers would probably be closer to 60. My concern is, yeah, what would you do, or what would you do with any money you take out? Where would you like to see it go? We have mentioned concerns about the current budget projected into next year. We could use it for reducing those. We could put it into this year's budget and perhaps address some of the needs that still are outstanding out there. We have, for example, Mr. Sullivan has mentioned safety and security needs, or the many other things that we have delayed and put on the back burner.
So you'd be comfortable with 60,000 in this account?
If you want to just have both of those eventualities on the balance and keep that as a reserve, or if you want to keep one or the other, then the question is.
Well, what would you recommend, Dr. Colley? 60,000?
I would recommend at least 30,000.
Michael.
We used a formula to recalculate the, I assume, the student charge. Yes?
Yes.
So we've revised the student fee for the buses, and we used a formula. What percentage of our transportation budget did we figure would come from student fees?
I don't have that figure off the top of my head, Mr. Sullivan.
All right. That's the same question I had before, and the follow-up to that is, when we pay an invoice monthly, I assume transportation, the busing bill us monthly or weekly, I don't know.
Yep.
The percentage that come from student fees should then come out of the student fee account, and that's what's not happening. That's the core of this. So it appears you've looked at that. We don't have the formula, but I accept the $30,000 recommendation.
Dr. Colley, we voted to reduce the fees
For next year.
that reduction next year.
You got to remember
the
when.
number that we talked about at the last meeting.
Yeah.
Was that already with the reduction, or was that still?
Yes,
the old fees?
with the reduction.
Any other discussion on spending down or leaving the transportation revolving fund, bringing that down to 30?
If, I know that there's been some talks about the budget, and we're going to meet about it, but is there any way of purchasing or transferring expenses that belong into transportation which would alleviate funds in our operating budget for some of those expenses to prepay for next year?
That would be the idea, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you spend down the revolving fund and it frees up the line item. I don't know. I think 30. I think maybe go a little bit more than 30. Leave it up a little bit, maybe 40 or. I mean, and keep in mind that next year we'll be negotiating a new bus contract for the following however many years.
At least 3, I hope.
That would be the next budget, but.
Have we had a balance in there traditionally that was different than this? Like
No, I guess it's been this for a
been that.
while. Yeah, I don't
Okay.
know how far back. It's been a while.
I would agree. I think 30 is shaving it,
Yeah,
in my
if for
opinion,
some
too
reason
close.
we need a bus, then we'd be digging. We'd be looking.
I think I would be more comfortable with like a $50,000 figure. Because if we do have surcharges in fuel, then that's going to come out of this fund.
Well, if you did 50 now, and you could always revisit it.
Could
later
always change it.
anyways.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
Do I have a motion?
should I make a motion to reduce the budget to 50, budget in the revolving account to 50,000?
Second?
Any discussion? Any further
Yeah,
discussion?
just point of information, 5 years ago, we were carrying $100,000 in transportation fee, because that's what the testimony was from the school committee. I don't believe so.
I know the carry forward for last year was 102.
5 years ago, did we carry forward $100,000?
What's your tone, Mike?
No, it's not a
I don't
tone.
know.
It's a
Mike?
simple question.
No
We
one
did
here-
not.
No one here gave you a specific number. I don't know how long it's been.
The testimony from this school committee just indicated we have always done this, and that was in addressing the new member's question, and the point of information is that's incorrect.
Duly noted. So we have a second.
Yep.
Carolina,
Yep.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Opposed?
Thank you. Okay, minutes, approval of minutes from Wednesday, March 27th, 2013.
So moved.
Second? I'll second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
School committee business. Michelle, do you have anything?
Correspondence.
So you got a bag of goodies here. Model Railroad Magazine. I'll keep that. Just kidding. That's the comic relief. So we got a newsletter from the MAC. A mask update on that day at the State House. And apparently they're changing that from April 30th to May 21st, and I guess more information to follow on that, or is that done
They
deal?
basically they're going to adjust what they do this year. They said they're still going to have the lunch, but apparently they had to move some things around at the State House itself. They moved it to that date, which coincides, I believe, with around the time they are expecting the Senate to deliberate.
How does a member attend that if they so wish?
Just ask the school committee to approve their reimbursements if they wish for any. If not, you just let me know, and we let them know up there how many people are going.
Okay, thank you. And we also have a letter here from the Westport Taxpayers Association of Freedom of Information letter. Do I read that?
I haven't seen it.
Dear Chairwoman Duarte, we request copies of the following documents and email from Dr. Carlos Colley to the school committee dated November 1st, 2012. A letter from school committee member Michael P. Sullivan to Susan Martin dated 10/20/12, November 10th, 2012. An email message from Susan Martin to the school committee member Michael P. Sullivan dated November 9th, 2012. Or a letter of the same date. All school committee minutes, except those held in executive session that discuss or memorialize any actions taken by the committee in response to the subject matter contained in the requested documents. If you deny, basically, normal verbiage, so we'll take that up. New business? Anyone?
Yeah, we had a couple of notes on new business. One, obviously,
The
is
superintendent's review.
Superintendent's review. I assume we'll have some budget.
We'll have an update on the budget. What are we gonna call that? The school
We
committee.
didn't want to give it a name last night, so.
That's
The
the
Consensus Building
Consensus
Committee.
Building Committee, which,
Actually, you don't want to call it a committee, I don't think.
Yeah,
You
it's
wanna
not
call
a
it a
committee,
meeting,
it's a
because
meeting.
if it's a committee, you can have a
The Consensus Building Team.
meeting.
and so we anxiously await the outcome of that meeting. Anything else?
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate to hear from Dr. Colley within the next 2 meetings, once we get to a budget, the schedule for any layoff notices. I know in the past we had early schedules. If we have to cut $277,000 out of our budget, I think we, as a school committee, want to know the effect of that on personnel and the schedule of notices.
Well, I mean, that,
I can get you that.
Thank you.
I mean, obviously, when we get that final number, then we do, as we do every year, have to scramble to
That's right.
try to make things work, so. All right, so, thank you, and now we need to, comments and statements from the public, anyone? Seeing none? And, we are going to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of negotiating with the exempt non-collective bargaining staff members, and also discussion of school safety matters and protocols, and we will not be returning into open session.
So moved. Aye, Carolina Africano. No, so moved. Somebody needs a second.
Second?
Second.
Aye, Carolina Africano.
I'm still doing it.
Aye, Tony Veras.